If we were going to break wrestling down to its very core, it would be nice and simple. The babyfaces are the good guys and the bad guys are the heels. The thing is, though, sports entertainment can actually on occasion be more nuanced than that. So even though you are hearing a villain say bad things, when you actually get into the content, you're like, wait a minute, I think this son of a gun is right. So today, that is what we are going to do. We are going to give the bad guys their due. And I am Simon Miller, and his 10 WWE heels who were absolutely right. Number 10, Randy Savage in 1989. As we all know, back in the 80s, Hulk Hogan was the ultimate iconic goody two-shoes. Now actually, his actions were questionable, like that Royal Rumble where he pulled out Sid Justice. Also, Hogan loved a back rake. I've always been told that is evil. Of course, just before we got out of that decade, he did team up with the other legendary superstar, the Macho Man, and they become the Mega Powers. And I tell you, if you weren't around for this, it was absolutely stupendous. It's why even today, most people say it's one of the best stories the WWE has ever told, because eventually Randy Savage became the jealous heel, because he felt like Hulk had lust in his eyes for his wife, Miss Elizabeth. The thing is, though, when you do go back and watch it now, I totally understand where the Macho Man was coming from. Hogan spends a lot of time of their run basically sucking up to Liz and trying to be all like, oh my gosh, you're so great, everybody should look at me. I mean, at WrestleMania 4, he even stole Randy Savage's thunder. Some people even found images like this where, there's no other way to put it, Hulk Hogan basically has his hand on Elizabeth's bottom. That wouldn't be cool. Nobody else would like this, so even though Randy may have gone a bit too far, you can understand his justification. Maybe Hulk Hogan should have sat down and apologized. And well, it still worked out for him because he became the WWF champion at WrestleMania 5. Whatever. Number 9, The Big Show in 2000. So the Royal Rumble 2000 finish was not the first dubious one that the event had had in its rich history. The closing moments of 1994 and 1995 had worked well, so come 2000, even though The Rock thought he had survived by the skin of his teeth and won the damn thing, Big Show was like, wait a minute, no he didn't, I saw both of his feet hit the floor. And here's the secret, my friends, which is not a secret because you can see it on TV, The Big Show was 100% correct. Because even though at first it was a bit like, oh man, the real life Paul White is just complaining, he then showed footage on Raw. There's no two ways about it. It's on the screen right now. That's right, it's Rocky's toes touching the mat. Somehow though, coming off the back of this, The Big Show was still cast as the villain of the piece. And how is that fair? If you had done something that you knew you had done, and everybody else was telling you you didn't, you'd be more within your rights to get super duper mad. Even after the Big Show had won their match at No Way Out, the Great One still managed to muscle his way in on WrestleMania. And what did we do when the Giant walked to the ring? We booed him. Whereas all he had done is pointed out a discrepancy and then beaten The Rock. Poor Big Show didn't have a chance. That just means if you do want to break it right down and look at it very specifically, technically, babyface Rock nabbed the Big Show spotlight twice. You should probably go have a chat to Hulk Hogan. Number 8, Sid Justice in 1992. Yep, this is what I was referring to when we did talk about it in entry number 10. This was the 1992 Royal Rumble, and after Sid Justice had kind of but not really thrown out Hulk Hogan, Hulkamania ran wild in the sense he reached up, he grabbed Sid's arm, and he pulled him to the floor. Now this lives deep in my heart, because it was one of the first times you just laughed at how stupid the Royal Rumble's rules were, but they're also brilliant, so if WWE is listening to this, please never change them. What was really bad is in the aftermath of this, do you know what then WWF on-screen president Jack Tunney did? He picked Hulk Hogan to main event WrestleMania 8. So of course Sid was mad, he hadn't done anything wrong, and he was still being overlooked for opportunities. And yeah, sure, this is when Justice went over the edge and turned his back on Hulk, but I would say that's because Hulkamania turned his back on him first. So I just think it was really disappointing that all of this backstabbing was forgotten when the commentators were talking about Sid Justice and Hulk Hogan. And also because Sid was cast as the bad guy, he never got his revenge. So you see what we have learned during this video. You get nothing from being friends with Hulk flippin' Hogan. Number 7, The Rock in 1997. So this story has been told many times before. After Rocky Maivia had debuted in 1996 and become the Intercontinental Champion, the fans didn't like him. Now that's fine, but do you remember what the audience started to chant? It was one of two things, either Rocky sucks, or the much worse one, die Rocky die. Eventually the future Dwayne Johnson had to go away because he had a knee injury, so quite rightfully when he came back he joined the Nation of Domination and told everybody on the mic, I don't really like you anymore because you wished for my death. I mean, they literally did. So let's try and look at this from a human point of view. If somebody had been screaming this at you for 12 months, would you actually want to be nicey nice to them? No, you wouldn't. You'd want to yell in their face. So it's no wonder The Rock did this. Once again, I use that word. He was totally justified. It also worked because greatness was born on that day. And after he had left the Nation of Domination, he went on to become a multi-time world champion. So it just goes to show, sometimes you do need to walk the treacherous path, especially if you know deep down in your tum-tum you did nothing wrong at all. Also probably means today we should chant "Live Rocky Live." For some reason that's even more flubbed up. Number 6, Ivory in 2000. So the Right to Censor group in the year 2000 was an attempt to sanitize the WWS product, whereas reality it was Vince McMahon yelling at the Parents Television Council. I suggest you Google this, but because that group had been hounding him for years, he decided to take it out on them on Raw, which basically meant an increase in explicit content and raunchy programming. Given that Ivory was leading the Right to Censor though, her main point in terms of what we were seeing on the television was that she felt like women should stop being in bra and panties matches, and we should probably move towards more serious wrestling. I mean, the fact that was ever considered a heel move is totally nuts, and as we sit here in 2025, you can't argue this one. Ivory was totally correct. So essentially what was happening here was that she was preempting the women's revolution that would happen years later, because she just wanted fair, equal treatment and a platform that bolstered talented female workers. If you don't like that, I promise you're the problem. Naturally, because of where the World Wrestling Federation was at the time, we basically turned Ivory's words into a cartoon, and she was booked to be the bad guy. It also meant that she was often thrown into gravy, jelly, or sudden mud-based attraction, and I regret saying that, but it is true. So now is the time to put more respect on Ivory's name. Number 5, Drew McIntyre in 2023. I mean, we all know this one, but it stands to reason and we should say it again. The only reason Drew McIntyre went mad in 2023 and 2024 and 2025 is because the bloodline kept screwing him over and screwing him over and screwing him over. I mean, he should have been the WWF champion on at least 3 occasions, and then Roman Reigns and his band of brothers went, nope, we are going to steal this away from you. Given that all of a sudden the fans stopped talking about this, but did chant for CM Punk after he returned, well, this was too much for the Scottish Warrior, and he basically yelled out, what the flub is happening? Because for all of this, he had been a staunch company man, even when the carpet had been pulled out from beneath his feet, and now CM Punk, a man who hated the WWE, was treated like a hero. Well, if that's the case, screw this, I'm going to destroy everyone, mostly on social media, because Drew is absolutely brilliant. Of course, from there he was obsessed with Punk and then moved on to the likes of Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn, and he's still going after Roman Reigns. But actually, when you do relive McIntyre's story, well, he really should have been the sympathetic babyface of the piece, but of course he became a little bit too insane. This is why you always need to watch your words. If you go too far, everybody will just think you're nuts. Before Bret Hart in 1997. Now, regardless what you think about business or numbers or the death of Hulkamania, never forget that in the early 90s, Bret the Hitman Hart was a beloved babyface. I mean, he used to gift his pair of pink shades to kids around the world, and they would be so happy some of them would cry. He was just trying to be the most wholesome professional wrestler in the world, which is where we jumped to 1996, and who did the fans choose? The anti-hero Stone Cold Steve Austin. In 1997, this got even worse from Bret's perspective because D-Generation X rallied support with their rebellious behavior, and after a while, given the company wasn't pushing back, Hart basically went shrug emoji. If nobody is going to give me the respect I deserve, why the flub am I going to give any respect back? Then it got really bad because the fans started to boo him, and that man went crazy. Always remember as well that before Montreal 1997, the story had actually been that Bret Hart getting screwed out of his World Championship opportunities and the Royal Rumble. I mean, he threw Steve Austin out, who then snuck back in, and yep, he threw Bret over the top rope. So in many ways, this was an early predecessor to everything Drew McIntyre was doing recently, and then one day Bret walked to the ring and basically said, America, I think you suck, Canada, I love you, and that's the path I'm now going to walk. The thing is, though, when you heard every single thing that came out of his mouth, aside from the mean words about the USA, he was telling the truth. Management was not backing him up, everybody else was allowed to run wild. He was the only guy trying to keep things as they once were and appeal to a family base. Eventually, it just meant he had to become the bad guy too, and isn't that just a wonderful irony? It's why this 1997 run by Bret Hart is one of the best of all time, and if you've never seen that, You should go and change that right now. Number 3, Owen Hart in 1994. And let's face it, his little brother had a point too. Because in late 1993, Bret did indeed pluck Owen from high-energy tag team obscurity and said, "Hey man, you should team with me instead. We are blood." So at this point, the elder sibling absolutely should have been given a trophy or something. I mean, did you see the high-energy team? That was about to date really fast. The issue was, tension began almost instantly at the Survivor Series, when it was Owen that became the only Hart sibling that was eliminated in a match against Shawn Michaels, Jerry Lawler's Knights. That's a whole story, you can look it up. This moved us on to the 1994 Royal Rumble, where it looked like the pair were about to win the tag belts. And well, if we are going to call a spade, it was Bret Hart's arrogance that cost them. Because he wouldn't tag out despite suffering a knee injury, and even tried to lock on his patented sharpshooter for the win. I love Bret Hart, he's my favorite wrestler, but that was really stupid, and it meant the Hart brothers lost. Quite rightfully so, Owen was furious, which is when he kicked Bret's leg out from underneath his leg, whatever the flub he said, but ultimately his point was this: "My brother, you are selfish." Now, of course, Owen went way too far with this and became a psychopath. But yeah, once again, everything he's saying was true, and Bret's selfishness and ego had ruined everything. So really, we should have taken the side of Owen Hart, but we didn't, and now there's nothing we can do. Number 2, Kevin Owens in 2024. So this is the most recent example as of me talking on this list, but it is a good one. The whole reason why Kevin Owens turned on Cody Rhodes is because Roman Reigns had been trying to kill KO for 4 years. Kevin Owens then welcomed Cody Rhodes back into the WWE. He helped him defeat the Bloodline, and as soon as the opportunity was there, what did Rhodes do? He teamed with the Tribal Chief, and quite rightfully, Kevin was like, "Well, you ain't no friend of mine. I'm gonna try and break your neck." Do not forget as well that at many a Royal Rumble, Kevin Owens had clashed with the Tribal Chief, and Roman Reigns had actually tried to kill him. I mean, he even ran him over in a golf cart. The real reason Kevin Owens is still raging as I'm talking to is because Cody Rhodes has never explained himself. Like, why did he team with Roman, and why wasn't he nicer to Owens? So even though KO has gone off a deep end these days and is probably going to murder Sami Zayn, I actually understand all his intentions. He just feels betrayed, man. And then, yeah, sure, Randy Orton kind of got in the way, but he too wasn't listening. So damn it, we need to start opening our ears. Number 1, The Miz in 2016. The Talking Smack segment between The Miz and Daniel Bryan in 2016 will probably be remembered forever. One of the most real things WWE had done in years, and it was on basically a B-show spin-off. It really was fascinating to watch too, because after Bryan had prodded the bear, The Miz just went totally off. If you can believe it, the American Dragon didn't really have anything to say in return. Now at the time, even though he couldn't wrestle, Daniel Bryan was portrayed as a babyface, and of course The Miz is always the proverbial heel. The thing is though, he then decided to take shots to The Miz, saying he was safe and he wasn't a very good wrestler and he hadn't had that much success, and the A-lister took offense to that when he was quite literally the Intercontinental Champion at the time. Throw in that in 2016, Daniel was the GM of SmackDown, when all of a sudden The Miz decided, "I don't need to hear this, I am going out there every single week and performing to my heart's content. I'm also a safe wrestler," which wasn't the same for you, Daniel Bryan. Why the flub did you think you got injured in the first place? Now that was taking it too far, of course, but once again, if you do go back to this back and forth and you listen to what each man is saying, well, dare I say it, The Miz is 100% right. He had a Hall of Fame-worthy career, he was winning titles, and within the world of kayfabe, he was a massive success. You knew it was good too, because people were devastated this feud would never culminate in a match in a ring, because Daniel Bryan wasn't cleared. But eventually he was allowed to get back in the ring. What did WWE do? They screwed it up. But always remember on this night, if you did have to pick a side, well, The Miz was probably right. Do you know of any other heels who were absolutely correct? Then make sure you let us know in the comments below before you like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Look, there's another video on the screen. I think you should click it. Otherwise, my friends, make sure you have a terrific day, and I appreciate you stopping by. I'll talk to you again very soon.